Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Mem Beis Amud Aleph. Starting with Daf Mem Aleph Amud Beis, 8 lines from the bottom. As we mentioned last time, there's a mitzvah to eat the carbon Pesach, which is roasted, on the night of the 15th, the first night of Pesach. The Pasuk says as follows: Ve'ochlu es habosar balayla hazetzli eish umatzas al merorim yoichlu. Again, one must eat the carbon Pesach, which is roasted on the night of the 15th, together with matzah and maror. The next pasuk goes on to say, Al toichlu mimenu no, ubosha mevushal b'mayim. Do not eat the carbon Pesach if it is only partially roasted, or if it is cooked in water. Ki im tzli eish roisha al krov al kirboy. Only if it is going to be roasted. The Gemara now brings another brayso. Tonu Rabbanon ochal tzli mi b'oid yoim chayev. If a person, however, ate the carbon Pesach which was roasted, but mi b'oid yoim, instead of the night of the 15th, on the 14th, during the day, chayev, he's obligated and will then get a set of malchus by being over a lav. V'kazayis no meshachashecha chayev. And if he ate a kazayis of that which was partially roasted at night, on the 15th at night, he'll be equally chayiv a carbon, he'll be chayiv a set of malchus. The Gemara now explains, Ktoni tzli dumya dino. The brayso that we just quoted teaches tzli, that which is roasted, and is eaten mi ba'od yoim. Dumya compared to that which was partially roasted and eaten on the night of the 15th. Ma no belav af tzli belav. Just as the no, the comparison is, when it is partially roasted, he's over a lav that will be mechayiv him malchus. So too, the comparison that the brayso makes is that when he eats that which is roasted, mi ba'oid yoim, he's going to be chayiv malchus. So Gemara asks, Bishlama no, it's very well that which he ate partially roasted, mi ba'oid yoim, why he's chayiv malchus, because there's this explicit lav. It says lo soichlu. Ksiv al toichlu mimenu. No, you shall not eat that which is partially roasted. So we understand he's chayiv a set of malchus for eating that which was partially roasted at the night of the 15th. Elitzli minolim. But where do we know that the tzli is going to be chayiv a set of malchus? Granted, he did not eat it on the right time. He's supposed to eat the tzli on the night of the 15th. And instead he ate it mi ba'oid yoim. For sure, he's not doing what the command is, but that anyways is only a mitzvah asay, meaning to say, he's mevatel the asay. But where do we see that he's going to get a set of malchus, which is only going to result of being over a lav? Dichsiv, the Gemara says, V'ochlu es habasar balayla hazeh. In regards to eating the roasted meat of the carbon Pesach, it's on the night of the 15th. You shall eat it. It's a positive command. Balayla in bayom loy, teaching us at night of the 15th, yes, but during the day, not. So where do we see there's a chi of malchus, which is only going to result from a lav? Hay lav haba michlal asehu. This lav is only coming from an aseh, meaning the lav that says that you shall not, tells you should eat it at night. From there we learn out, you shall not eat it during the day. So that's not an explicit lav, it's a lav that's bo michlal aseh. And we have a klal, v'kol lav haba michlal aseh, the weight, the way we view such a lav that's bo michlal aseh, has the weight of an aseh. It's not considered to be a lav. Whereby, shuv, we're asking, where do we see that a person should get malchus, which is coming only from an explicit lav in the Torah, when he ate the roasted meat, the roasted meat, mi bod yoim. Omar Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda said, Hamani, who is the author of this brayso that says he will get a set of malchus for eating tzli mi ba'oid yoim? On top of mem beis amid aleph, Rabbi Yehuda. It's actually Rabbi Yehuda, the Tanya, for it states in the following brayso in regards to an animal that had a blemish, it became a balmum. So it cannot be offered as a carbon. Says the Pasuk, the Tanya, Shor v'seh, Sarua v'kalut. If it has a mum that is either sarua means that one of its limbs is greater, it's bigger than the other limb, or kalut, or that which it's supposed to have a split hoof. It's a shor says a kosher animal, yet it's not split, so it's considered to be a mum. So the pasuk says nedava taaseh oisoy, give it as a nedava to bedek habayis, since you can't bring it as a carbon. From here we make a diuk. Oisoy, says the brisa, atomat bis lebedek habayis, that animal which has a blemish, which is a bal mum, you are to then give it to the bedek habayis. V'iyata bis tmimim lebedek habayis. However, if it does not have a mum, then you cannot give the animal to bedek habayis. You have to offer it as a carbon. Mikan omru. From here we learn out kol ha bis tmimim lebedek habayis oiver be'esei. The Tana says from here we see that a person is makdish an animal that is not a bal mum. It's called a tmimim. Such animals that are tmimim, if you give it over instead the bedek habayis, you're over in asay. Ainli ella be'asay. Belois asay minayin. I only know that you're over in asay. Where do you know that you're over a lav? Talmud loyma, the Brisa goes on to say, Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. And the pasuk that precedes says, and Hashem spoke to Moshe lemor. Limeid al kol aparsha kula she beloy sasi di Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says this, that it says lemor prior to then this command, is teaching us that there's also going to be a lav in regards to this command. Ask the Gemara, Omar lo Rabbi lebar kapora. Rabbi asked bar kapora, my mashma, what is mashma from these words? Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe lemor. That should then precede and tell us that the next coming tzivui is going to be not only in asay, but it's going to carry with it a lav. Where do you see the mashmos of lemor as being a lav? Omar loy, he said to him, dichsiv, for it's written lemor, to teach me. Loy ne'emar bidvarim. The word lemor is a contraction of the word loy ne'emar bidvarim, meaning a low. It's not. It's a low. Don't. It's not said bidvarim. It's something that's a loy. It's a not to do. That which is said in the following words. So therefore, it's considered to be a lav. Beirav Amri, the students of the Beis Medrash, they said lemor is a different way of explaining it. Lemor is a contraction of lav emor. It's a lav, a loisase, a negative transgression. Emor, tell them. And therefore, this is going to be considered to be an additional lav. So too, when it comes to our parsha of the Karban Pesach, that also states a similar type of lashon. There, in regards to the Karban Pesach, there it says, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe ve'el Aaron, and it says, Lemor. So from there we also see, since it's preceded by Lemor, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it comes to then tell you that you're going to be over a lav. The Mishnah that is quoted now says that a person who's a baker, so he should take the water every so often that he puts in his hands as he's baking. So he has little pieces of dough and he puts his hands in the water to cool off. So those have particles of dough in it. That water should be spilled out. That's what the Mishnah tells us. So the Gemara comments on this. One brisa states that he should pour it in a place that has a midron, a slope. And not to pour it on a place where the ground is broken. In other words, where the broken ground, it won't be absorbed. Whereas in the midron, it will slide down. And therefore, that's the appropriate place to get rid of any potential chametz. However, we have another brisa that states as follows: you shall place the water. You can then go ahead and throw it down. You can pour it down on the ishbarin, on the ground that is not level, that is broken. And here we have a blatant stira. Answers the Gemara: Lo kasha ha de nefish de kavu, ha de lo nefish de lo kavu. That what we said, it's a nefish kavu, means that it has a lot that gathers together. For that, you have to then put it down the midron. But that which we're saying is only a little bit, is not a lot of water that's gathered together, that you can put it in the ishborin. In other words, it's enough that it will be absorbed even in the ishborin. So therefore, that's going to be the second brisa. Omer Rav Yehuda goes on and says, Isha loy tolush ella b'mayim shalonu. A woman shall not need, except if she's using water that's called water that is lonu, that has been held overnight. In other words, it's cooled off. Such water that can be used for kneading dough for matzah. Because otherwise, we're concerned that it's warm water that will then be mixed with the flour, and that will cause a fermentation of chimutz. Darsha Rav Masna bePunya. Rav Masna, he made a drasha in the city of Punya. Now, when he made the drasha, he used the Lashon HaKodesh of Shelonu, Mayim Shelonu. So Lamacha, the next day, Aisu Kuli Alma Chatzbayu Va'asu Legabei. The next day, all of the people who attended his drasha, they came to him with their pitchers, and they said to him, Va'amulei, Havlon Maya, give us water. In other words, they understood from his drasha, that's be mine. They thought they heard Shalonu. Shalonu means our water. So we have to get water from him, from the Rav. Omar Lahu, he said to them, no, you're making a mistake. I didn't say Shalonu. I said Shalonu, the water that is Lonu, that has been held overnight. Omar Lahu, he said, Ana b'maya devisu amrei. I said water that is held overnight. That which was water kept overnight, that's the water that you must use. But that doesn't have to be my water. In other words, they misunderstood when he said Shalonu. Dorash, Rave teaches other halachos in regards to kneading and making the baking of the matzah process. He says as follows: Isha loy tolush becham. First of all, a woman shall not knead the dough in the sun, because the sun is hot, obviously, and it will heat up. It may bake. It may cause the dough to become hotter, and therefore cause the chimutz to happen before entering the oven. And also not with water that has been heated up by the sun. And not with water that is in a vessel, a certain kli that is a copper kli. Normally this copper kli has a fire underneath it, whereby the contents, the water inside, certainly gets heated up. But even when there's no fire, after a while, it still is warm. And therefore don't use such warm water from such a place of a mulyar. He goes on to say, V'lo sagbiya yoda min hatanur. A woman should not, who's going to be then involved with the baking process, should not pick up her hands from the dough that is then about to be placed inside of the oven. Ad shetigmor es kol hapas, until she finished all of the preparations for the dough before it goes into the oven. Another thing he added, v'tzorich shnei kelim. You need to have two different vessels, two different kelim of water. Echad shemekatefes boy, ve'echad shemetzanenes boy es yadeh. One vessel, one kli of water, where she then uses to then take and put onto the dough, and another one because her hands are warmed up from the kneading process, that she puts into the cold water. It shouldn't get mixed up. In other words, the mekatefes, where she's going to take and baste the top of the dough, that shouldn't be the same water that then is with the mayim that she's mitzanenes with. It should be separate. After she cools off her hands with that water, which has a little bit of dough on top of it, therefore get mixed with that water. The Gemara asks the following question: what happens if she did indeed knead the dough for matzah with hot water? What is the din? Bidi eved. Marzuto omar muter. Rav Muster said it's still muter. Rav Ashi omar oser. Rav Ashi is choilik. Omar marzuto. Why do I say he says? Mino aminullah, to say that it's muter. I have a precedent, the Tanya. It states in the Brisa, which we quoted on Daf Mem Amud Aleph, and it says, "Ein loitesin hasa'arim ba'Pesach." The Brisa teaches that you cannot lightly soak the dough, the grain, in this case the barley grain, in water. You can't lightly soak in water. The way that they would do it, we spoke about before, is that they would do this latisa process by soaking it lightly in the water. That way then they would pound, not the dough, I keep on saying the dough, but the grain. Then they would pound it, getting the bran outside, extracting the bran, and then they can then use this for flour, which would be fine flour, nice white flour. So they said you cannot do this on Pesach. V'im losa, but if b'di eved, a person did lightly soak such grain, nizbaku asun. If the Brisa says b'di eved, it has split open, then it's also because then it's going to quickly ferment into chametz even before putting into the oven. However, lo nizbaku mutarin. But if it did not split, so therefore it doesn't have any signs of chametz, and it won't lead to then a quickening of chimutz. So therefore, it's still fine. It's mutter. So therefore, Ravina says that's my precedent. Marzuta says that's my precedent. Ravashi Omar. Ravashi turns to Marzuta. He says, "Otu kulu chada machitsa mechasinhu." Are you going to then you're going to weave it all to one type of din altogether? Because it's mutter over there, you're going to say therefore it's mutter over here. Two different cases. Heicha de itmar itmar, where it is stated, so then the Chacham say it's permissible, it's mutter. You can rely on such dough that was letisa. Or sorry, the grain that was done with letisa. But heicha de lo itmar. But if they didn't say specifically otherwise, then you can't rely on it as being mutter. Hadron aloch kol sha'ah.